While on the boat there are lots of things to do, including shows and gambling, as well as a variety of bars to get soused in.
You're the one that grabbed...
evil-minded son.
You're the one that grabbed me around the middle, pal.
Yeah, because I can't grab you because there's too much in the way of armor up there. You dick!
Don't mind me, I'm just getting in position for the kiss. After we were through breaking our cabin, we started to pull into Oslo, Norway. Seeing as how it was our first excursion on our cruise, we were not totally sure what to do with ourselves, but we somehow managed to wander into this particular church, which is where we got our first taste of the spectacular mosaic we would see throughout the rest of our trip. We then ended up taking a public bus to the Viking Ship Museum. Sadly, I don't have any footage of the bus because I'm an idiot. However, I did notice something a little strange. Norwegians tend to name their things suspiciously close to Americans. Frederiksborg. This museum was unique in that it was the final resting place for 3 authentic Viking longships, as well as many other artifacts. Whilst we were admiring the ancient handiwork, a subsect of our group was off in another different part of Oslo. They went the more earthy route, taking trails and small roads to places a little bit more removed from the big city where we were.
There you go.
At the end of our excursion day, we eventually all wound up back at our ship, the Explorer of the Seas, in case I forgot to mention it earlier. Our next stop was in Copenhagen, Denmark, where once again we split up into 2 different groups. Our group, for the sake of the narrator, will be called Group A, because once more, we separated into 2 separate groups. Our group decided to take a small tour around Copenhagen and then go for a little kayak paddling trip. Meanwhile, Group B was having a rather relaxing tour through Copenhagen. After scraping off our current layer of salt water from Copenhagen, it was time to go to our formal dinner in the Sapphire Room. A perfectly lovely place where we spent most of our time getting fat and eating delectable items such as escargot. Also, this is Kevin and we love him. Some of us decided to go play shuffleboard on deck 4, while others decided to go to bed, in preparation for our next stop.
Hey, we're in, where are we? Helsinki.
Once more, we had split up into 2 separate groups, with this guy as my brother-in-law and sister's guide, and this lovely lady as our other guide. Their group explored Helsinki by land, while our group explored Helsinki by sea. Okay, I lied. I guess we both went in by sea.
Nora was not happy to leave the pool and feel terrible. We just want to get back to the ship before, curfew. Now I'm gonna go dive into the Baltic. Oh, that's so cold. I'm gonna go up to my neck because I'm putting my head in this water.
As we were pulling out of Helsinki, I started to ruminate about the sheer cultural significance of sauna. As our guide explained it to us, there are over 3 million saunas in Finland. With a population of only 5 million, it is entirely possible that the entire population could be in saunas simultaneously. Our ship actually had saunas on board attached to the gyms. However, it's very niche to film inside of a sauna, so enjoy this nice seascape instead. Our next stop was one we were by far and away the most nervous about. For the first time, all of us were going into Russia, specifically into St. Petersburg. While it has been described as reasonably safe, St. Petersburg is not what you'd describe as the typical representation of Russia. While we had to pass through customs to enter all the countries we've gone to so far, this one was by far and away the most serious. We were told not to film, not to laugh, not to joke around, and not to dilly-dally. Despite our nervousness and despite our rather American sensibilities, we made it through. Finally in Russia, in earnest, we were immediately struck by the fact that all the architecture in Russia is surprisingly different. These apartment buildings, for instance, were constructed during a time when the Soviet Union was coming to a close and was drowning in debt. They were, therefore, constructed strictly to house people, not to provide any extra luxury. Though the Soviet Union is just an afterthought in these days, our tour guides were surprisingly supportive of all the things that were left behind and the way that Putin has handled Russia since. However, now we were off the bus, and, surprisingly, we weren't thrown in the gulag. We were instead walking the grounds of the shockingly beautiful palace belonging to Catherine the Great. Because approximately 2,000 people had disgorged from our cruise ship alone, there were quite interminable lines. They did, however, allow us to gain an appreciation for the sheer decoratism of the outside of Catherine the Great's palace. Concluding our trip to Russia was rather strange, to be honest. 2 days simply flew by. We couldn't hardly believe we were leaving. No one was arrested, no one was thrown into the gulag, no one had to be bartered for with vodka and cigarettes. It was just over.